On November 24, 1971, a man boarded a commercial airplane in Portland, Oregon. He paid cash, he gave a false name, and he took seat 18C. No one noticed him, no one remembered his face. 4 hours later, he would disappear into the night without a trace, leaving behind one of the most carefully crimes in modern history. The FBI investigated for 45 years. They never identified him. They never found his body. And to this day, no one knows what really happened after the door opened.
Skyjacker parachuted into the Pacific Northwest with over $200,000 in ransom money.
He was just another passenger who gave his name as D.A. Cooper.
Run a few miles down a desert road, stare too long at a cheap-wood rose. It's fixing something that's been broken. Go get lost in a little town, get dressed up and just drive around. Get both feet on some solid ground.
By 1971, hijackings were not unheard of. Commercial aviation was still new and security was minimal. In the years leading up to that night, aircraft hijackings had already occurred. Rafael Miniciello and Garrett Brock Trapnell, but none executed their plan with the same precision as D.B. Cooper. It was the night before Thanksgiving. Northwest Orient Flight 305 was scheduled to fly from Portland to Seattle, a short routine flight. 36 passengers, 6 crew members. At 2:50 p.m., a man in his mid-40s boarded the aircraft. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, a thin black tie. Nothing about him stood out. Shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to the flight attendant. At first, she ignored it. She thought it was a phone number. Then the man leaned closer and said calmly, "Miss, you should read that. I have a bomb." The note was brief. It claimed he had explosives in his briefcase. He demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel stop in Seattle. If his demands were met, no one would be harmed. The pilot contacted air traffic control. The FBI was notified immediately. But here's the important detail. This was 1971. There were no metal detectors, no ID checks, no reinforced cockpit doors. What happened next would permanently change aviation security, but at the time this was uncharted territory. Authorities agreed to the demands. By the time the plane landed in Seattle, the money was ready. The parachutes were delivered. The passengers were released. No one was hurt. Only the flight crew remained. Then the man made a second request. He wanted the plane to take off again, this time toward Mexico, flying low, slow with the rear staircase open. A configuration few aircraft were designed to handle, but the plane complied. As the aircraft climbed back into the air, the man held the briefcase of money. He put on a parachute. Then he did something unusual. He ordered the crew into the cockpit and closed the door behind them. From that moment on, he was completely alone. No cameras, no witnesses, no communication. Just one man, a staircase, and 10,000 feet of open air. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit. The plane shook slightly. The crew felt a pressure change, then nothing.
The crew, here being debriefed by the FBI, was told to fly low over Oregon's flatlands with the flaps down. The speed dropped to 200 miles per hour. Somewhere, the hijacker parachuted away with the money.
Somewhere over the forests of the Pacific Northwest, the man known only as D.B. Cooper vanished into the night. The search began immediately. Helicopters, ground teams, FBI agents. They combed forests, rivers, mountains. They found nothing, no parachute, no body, no money. The discovery happened nearly 9 years later. It was February 1980, along the banks of the Columbia River in Washington state. A young boy was digging in the sand with his family, not far from a popular recreation area. As he dug, he uncovered something unusual: tightly packed bundles of cash, partially buried, stained and falling apart.
The FBI confirmed it. It was indeed several thousand of the $200,000 that bailed out with D.B. Cooper.
At first, no one understood what they were looking at. But when authorities examined the bills, the truth became clear. The serial numbers matched the ransom money from Flight 305. This was the first and only physical evidence ever recovered from the hijacking. But the discovery raised more questions than it answered. Only 3 bundles were found, a small fraction of the original $200,000. The rest of the money was gone. Investigators were left with 2 competing explanations. One theory suggested the money washed downriver after the jump, carried by wind, rain and currents until it finally settled in the sand. Another suggested something far more unsettling, that the money had been intentionally buried. If that were true, it would mean Cooper survived the jump, at least long enough to reach the ground. But there was a problem. The location where the money was found did not align cleanly with the FBI's original jump zone. To reach the riverbank, the bills would have had to travel in ways that defied easy explanation. No parachute fragments were found nearby, no equipment, no trace of a campsite, just the money and nothing else. With no clear trail to follow, investigators turned to the only thing they had left: people. Over the years, hundreds of suspects were examined. Most were dismissed quickly. One of the earliest suspects was Richard McCoy Jr. Just months after the hijacking, McCoy carried out a nearly identical crime. He hijacked a plane, demanded money, and parachuted from the rear staircase. He was later caught and imprisoned. The similarities were striking, but there were problems. McCoy was younger than witnesses described, and at the time of the original hijacking, he had an alibi, one supported by multiple people. The FBI ultimately ruled him out. Another name surfaced years later: Kenneth Christiansen. Christiansen worked for Northwest Orient Airlines. He had military experience. He lived near the suspected drop zone. After his death, family members claimed he had confessed, but investigators found no physical evidence linking him to the crime. Once again, suspicion faded. Then there was Robert Rackstraw, a former military pilot with explosives knowledge and a history of fraud. Rackstraw attracted renewed attention decades later. Some believed he fit the psychological profile. Others pointed to coded messages and circumstantial links. The FBI reviewed him extensively. Their conclusion was brief: no proof. After decades of investigation, the FBI acknowledged a simple reality: none of the suspects could be proven. And without proof, none could be named. The case wasn't unsolved because investigators stopped trying. It was unsolved because the trail never existed. What is certain is this: after that night, aviation changed forever. Rear staircases were redesigned, security procedures tightened, hijacking became harder, and for a long time it worked. The threat faded until it returned in a different form on September 11, 2001. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. After 45 years, they stopped looking. Somewhere between the cockpit door and the open sky, a man erased himself. No identity, no ending, no answer. Whether he survived or not, the mystery remains, frozen in time, waiting for a truth that may never arrive. And sometimes the most complete disappearance is the one that leaves behind the most evidence.